having me on, and welcome everybody to the Trilogy presentation. My name is Pat Donnelly, and I'm the Vice President of Corporate Communications and Development. And despite what's going on globally, 2020 is a really big year for Trilogy Metals. And we have lots of money in the bank, and we have a great partner, South 32, and some of the highest grade copper assets in the world up in a stable jurisdiction in Alaska. So I'll just start with what is Trilogy Metals, and we're, like I said before, very high grade copper and zinc. We have a joint venture with South 32, which is $6 billion base metals producer based in Perth, Australia. We're in Alaska, and globally, obviously, the COVID situation's really hurt everybody. But Alaska's been really hurt because it's the economy is driven by oil, fishing, and tourism. And that's really put the state on its back. And the governor has been trying to diversify the economy away from oil for a long time now. And one way he sees diversifying the economy is to focus on mining. And we've had tremendous support from the governor. We're focusing on two projects, Arck. It's at the feasibility stage right now, 43 million tons at 5% copper equivalent. And we're working on a feasibility study on that. And then across the valley is our Bornite project, which also has a significant amount of copper and cobalt. We recently just had a management change. Our former CEO, Rick Van Nieuwenhuizen, resigned last September. Jim Gowans currently is in the saddle, but we just announced that Tony Giardini is going to be the president CEO on June 1st. And Tony has just an absolutely outstanding resume. He was for the president of Ivanhoe Mines. He was also with Kinross Gold. And we're looking forward to having Tony join the team. So just look at our balance sheet. We currently have $15 million in the bank. Those are US dollars. Our market cap is about 240 million US. Fantastic shareholders, mostly based in New York. We're listed on the TSX and the New York Stock Exchange. So one thing we've heard so far today is about partnerships. And nowadays, to get things done, you need fantastic partnerships, and one of which is South 32. And in February, last February, we consummated our joint venture with South 32, in which they put in $145 million into the joint venture, and we contributed our assets. And so now they currently have a 50% interest in our assets, and we have the other 50%. And so it's equal management of the assets in Alaska, and this cash should get us all the way up to a production decision for the Arctic project. You can see here where we're located in Alaska. Specifically, this is our land package. And one thing I also like to emphasize is we don't just have projects, we have a whole mining jurisdiction. Specifically, we own about 90% of the Ambler mineral belt, which is a volcanogenic massive sulfide belt. And volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits tend to occur in clusters. So usually you get numerous high-grade polymetallic deposits. And the black here is all the state claims that we own, and the pink is the NANA claims. NANA is a native corporation. We have an agreement with them as well, and in 2011 we signed a deal with NANA where we all contributed our respective land positions to form the Upper Kobuk mineral projects. You can see here we're up in Northwest Alaska, specifically in the Burrow, the NANA region. You can see the Red Dog mine, which is the second largest zinc mine in the world. That's been in production now for over 30 years. And the beauty is the Red Dog mine is the economic engine in this area. And NANA Corporation, which is a native corporation, owns the Red Dog mine, and Teck is the operator. And NANA receives a 35% net profits interest royalty from that mine. So my point is, the people in this area who are primarily Nupiaq Eskimo get mining. They've made a lot of money on it. It's part of their culture now, and Teck's been a good neighbor for these people. The other partnership we have is with the state of Alaska. And the reason these projects have never been developed, because we're in the middle of nowhere. And so for the last 5 years now, the Bureau of Land Management and ADA, which is an infrastructure bank owned by the state of Alaska, have been permitting a 211-mile road from our project to the Dalton Highway. And we are now in the final steps towards getting the permits. As a matter of fact, we expect the final permits, the record of decision, and the 404 wetlands permit to be issued within the next couple of weeks. So it's imminent. And this is the big catalyst we've been waiting for a long time. And the next steps now is for ADA to move ahead with the engineering of the road, work on the financing, and hopefully within the next year or so we can begin construction of that road. So you can see here we're in the Nana area, specifically within the Upper Quebec Mineral Projects. Let's talk a bit about Arctic. Again, exceedingly high grade, 5% copper equivalent. Here are the economics from the pre-feasibility study we did in 2018. I'll highlight we're going to produce 160 million pounds of copper, 200 million pounds of zinc, plus gold and silver. This is all payable. Initial capital cost about 800 million, and our cash cost net of byproduct credits is 15 cents. So even if copper was at $2 or $1.50, this thing makes money. The net present value of $1.4 billion, after-tax IRR of 33%. This thing just screams. So now we're working on a feasibility study, and hopefully we'll have that out in May. We're not expecting too many surprises, probably a little bit of inflation on the CapEx, that's normal, and then we'll move on to permitting. This slide here in 18 just shows how outstanding the Arctic project is. It stands on its own. Most of these other projects are low-grade porphyries, and when you got grade, grade is king, and you stand up above the rest. Cash costs, again, very competitive. 15 cents would put us in the first quartile in cash costs. We're going to produce 3 concentrates: a copper, zinc, and what I call a precious metal concentrate. They're clean. And what I also note is, 12% of our revenue is going to be the precious metals. And yet we're going to produce about 30,000 ounces of gold a year and over 3 million ounces of silver per year. So in terms of financing, you can do some of those precious metals and sell them forward and probably pay a significant amount of your upfront capital cost. So again, it's nice to have a polymetallic project. Here's just a little outline of the project area. It's a very small footprint. The pit itself is about 1 kilometer in diameter, and we're only affecting about 147 acres. So in terms of permitting the mine, we think it'll be straightforward. I'll note that our Arctic is located on private and state land, not federal land, and that's an important distinction because we only need 1 federal permit, the 404 wetlands permit by the Army Corps of Engineers. We expect the Army Corps of Engineers will be the lead agency, and we just need that 1 federal permit. All the other permits will be issued by the state, and so that's huge. And we expect the permitting process to take 2 to 3 years, and we'll commence the permitting later this year. You can see here, Arctic is one of many projects we have in the Ambler Belt, and now that we've got this joint venture set up with South 32, we can go ahead and drill some of these other targets. And we did some drilling at Sunshine last year, and we were getting drill intercepts very similar to what we have in Arctic. So I think there's a possibility we could have more than 1 Arctic. And slide 25 just shows you we own not just a deposit, we have a whole mineral belt. And I'd say the Ambler mineral belt is very analogous to Flin Flon, to Noranda, and some of these other world-class VMS districts in the world that are company builders. And so now they've got some big money, with 145 million from South 32. We can go ahead and show this potential for this belt. So here's Arctic, and then across the valley is Bornite. And Bornite's a bit of a different beast. It's a carbonate replacement style deposit, but it's still the same age as Arctic. It's Devonian, so we think they're related. Here's the camp at Bornite. We have been doing some work at Bornite the last few years. You can see here quite a bit of drilling. We have Underground resources inferred of about 60 million tons, about 3% copper, and then open pit combined indicated inferred about 125 million tons at 1% and growing. The focus right now, as at Arctic and regional drilling, so this year we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus at Bornite, but we'll do a little bit of work this summer. But we have still expectations for Bornite. So just in conclusion, upcoming news flow. Like I said, the permitting for the road is finally coming to a close. And in the next week to 10 days, we expect the final permits for this road. It's a big, big, big catalyst. We'll complete the feasibility study at Arctic, hopefully in May. We're hoping to have an exploration program this summer. Right now, it is up in the air, and we'll have some news on that later. The plan was a $23 million budget for the summer, and so we're playing that by ear. And then obviously we'll start Permian Arctic later this year. So lots of news. As I said before, Trilogy has 15 million at the corporate level. Our burn rate at the corporate level is about $2 to $3 million a year. So we do not need to raise any money for a long time, probably at least 3, maybe 4 years before we need to go back to the markets. Again, you know, quality is king, and you can see here, these are all our peers. This shows grade, and this shows scale. And you know, I compare Trilogy to Arizona Mining, and the Trilogy here, this is based on a 50% basis. So if you just do the simple math, on a 100% basis, we're similar size and grade on a copper equivalent basis to Arizona Mining, and that was acquired for 1.6 billion. So do the simple math, that would be $800 million. And right now our market cap is about $230 million. So again, tremendous upside to be unlocked. And remember, Arizona Mining was acquired by South 32, who happens to be our partner. So again, everything is looking good, and it's a good time to get in the story. And the beauty is, if you love copper to mid to long term, Trilogy Metals is the place to go. You don't have to worry about short-term volatility in copper prices for Trilogy. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll pass the baton back to Joe. Thank you.